We come from a tradition that understands how to deal with mixed emotions and understands how to balance multiple realities because we have been doing it since our inception. The first part of the holiday, Chag HaSukkot, has a universal theme, and that's been pointed out multiple times. The Mishnah says that the world is judged for Geshem, for rain. The entire world is judged. If it rains on me, it's also going to rain on you. Rain is universal. And the offerings that were brought, in particular, the bulls that were sacrificed kineged umot ha'olam, for the purpose of thanksgiving for and prayer on behalf of the entire world. So this is the holiday of Sukkot, where we are looking outward and recognizing the interconnectedness that the children of Israel have with the rest of humanity and with all living things. And then comes this day, Shemini Atzeret, which has a different vibe. And the commentators wondered why on Shemini Atzeret only a single bull was offered. Not the large numbers that added up to 70, but just one. And the response that was given, Elu Kineged Yisrael, this is for the sake of Israel, for the sake of the children of Israel. God saying this day is for us. This day is for you to focus on us. Hit akvuli me'ad od. Stick around a moment longer. This is the day that God says to us, stick around. Don't go so quickly. Where are you rushing off to? So I want to acknowledge the universal, but I also want to encourage us to engage in a deep reflection as a people, starting with the beyond us. You've seen the footage. In Gaza, families are returning to the remains of their homes. They are experiencing enormous trauma. There is joy and relief, but also a sense of trauma that pervades the society. And what happens next is not clear. There is a great deal of resentment, surely towards the Israelis, but also towards Hamas, who have been ruling in a barbaric and oppressive way. And if you have been following the news, you know that Hamas has been rooting out people that they believe to have been collaborating with the Israelis and inflicting still a great deal of violence. And so we wonder, what's going to happen next? I express the hope that the Gazan people, by and large, will recognize that Hamas poses at least as great a danger to them as they do to those outside of Gaza. I am hopeful that there will be a turn, a rejection that takes place within Gaza among the other Arab nations that will lead to new leadership and hopefully a new reality. But today, on this day, I want to take a few moments to speak about Eretz Yisrael. First of all, a great deal of trauma remains. Israelis can now probably begin to actually feel and absorb the trauma that they have been experiencing. They are now maybe getting to the place of post-trauma. And at the same time, an irrepressible joy that has taken hold as families were reunited with their 20 loved ones, the 20 remaining hostages that have been held for over 2 years. We've all, I imagine, watched videos of these families being reunited, and the joy itself, it is palpable. There is a kind of searing quality to the joy, to watching parents hugging their children and not letting go and saying kapara alecha. Most of them, I think all of them are male. Kapara lecha, God bless you. Chayim shali. That's what Israeli parents say to their children. My life, neshama shali, my soul. And watching the crying and the screaming and the embracing and seeing the years collapse, not just the 2 years, but moms stroking their son's hair as though they're much, much younger, embracing them as their little boys who have returned home. And I think about Alon Ohel, who quietly played piano, pretend piano on his chest so that he could keep himself from falling into despair, who sat down and played an actual piano in the hospital, and who sang a song that I believe he composed while in captivity. I'm thinking about Eviatar David, forced to dig his own grave, sitting in between his two parents. I'm thinking about, as we all are, Noah Argamani and Avinatan Or, a couple that were finally reunited. And of course, there is still the anguish of the bodies that have not been returned and the remaining trauma of everything that has taken place. But this is a beginning for the state of Israel and for the people of Israel, a new beginning, if you will. And again, we have always been well practiced at acknowledging and articulating a mix of emotions. And I want to share this morning a poem that was written by Leah Goldberg that a number of people have resurfaced for the complexity of this occasion. She wrote it in the early 1940s. She was already in Israel. She achieved her doctorate in Europe. She was a brilliant literary theorist and poet. And the poem is called Lemocharat, the Day After. And I offer this poem as a way of expressing the complexity of this moment. The green today is very green, and the gray today is very gray, and a little black, and no white in the city. And the stormy today is very stormy, and the past today has very much past, and a little future, and no present in the air. And still it is not easy to breathe, and still it is not easy to think before the twisting wind, and very much not simple to wait. The storm touches the eyelashes, and every moment breaks into splinters. Yet the green today is very green. I want to make one more point connected to the universal as compared with the particular as articulated in today's extended holiday, both pieces of it. So the New York Times recently wrote a piece about how Americans overall, over the course of the war, shifted their sympathy away from Israel. And the gist of the article is that the Jewish people the world over need to figure out how to manage that. And I say to that, okay, that's something that needs to be discussed, surely, at some point. But today, on Shemini Atzeret, the day when God said, let's just take a moment together, I want to say the following to our own people. We need to figure out how to do a better job of talking to each other across ideological lines, across lines of background. I didn't do a clear analysis, but my sense is that just the 20 hostages who returned come from left-leaning families and right-leaning families and centrist families, and they're Ashkenazi and Mizrahi and mixed. And that is a microcosm of what Israeli society is and a microcosm of what the Jewish people are world over. So will we, as we begin to consider, God willing, an aftermath of this extended nightmare, will we be able to learn how to relate to each other differently than we have? Similarly, a lot of discussion about how younger people, by and large, are less sympathetic to Israel than their parents and grandparents. Younger people within the Jewish community often view Israel differently than their parents and grandparents. And so what do we do about that? We can ignore, we can yell, we can pound our fists, or we can figure out how to listen to an emerging generation and understand the questions that they are asking. A wise rabbi once said that we need to learn how to listen. Shh. And ah. And none of that will be easy. So yes, we have to concern ourselves with the world beyond our borders. There are far more than 70 nations in the world today. We never were an island. We are no longer able, even more, to hide ourselves from the realities of our neighbors and from the global world in which we live. The first days of Sukkot remind us of our interconnectedness with the world around us. But on this day, when God turns to us and says, let's take another moment together, just you and me, I ask us to focus on Medinat Yisrael, the state of Israel, and Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, the gray, the black, and the very, very green. Can we mourn together and dance together and listen to one another and walk forward together into this new day? I hope so. Chag Sameach.